We've all seen those online valuation tools on Zestimates and Realtor.com and whatnot. Today, we're going to be discussing whether those things are really in sync with what the market's doing. So if you're interested in that, stay tuned for this episode.
The Den, powered by the Lyons Group, a show dedicated to exploring hot topics in real estate, local happenings, and industry trends. We're a small team of professionals approaching $400 million in sales and nearly 2,000 local transactions. You're listening to time-tested experts and industry leaders. Here's a refreshing look at real estate happenings and more. Welcome to The Den.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's episode of The Den, powered by the Lyons Group. Today, we're going to be talking about online valuations and whether they really represent a true picture of what your home is worth. We're going to discuss that and more. But before I get into that, let's introduce our co-hosts and partners today. Paul, hand me the rock berry to my left. Melissa, let's go, Glasgow. I love that. Aspen, the ninja Groen, and the boss, Shannon Martinez. My name is Ben Lyons, and I'm your host of The Den. And today's going to be an interesting topic because we get a call, or we get calls all the time from sellers saying, hey, I saw my home is worth X amount. And is there a correlation to really, is that a true representation of what the market is doing or not? Let's talk about the value models that they use and some ins and outs. But Paul, why don't you kick us off? Tell me your thoughts on the valuation, the AVMs.
Well, I was just given this topic about 2 minutes ago. So
It was last night.
It was last night.
I missed the email, so I did not do my homework on this. But there are times when they're close. Our state is a non-disclosure state. That means a lot of different things. But when homes sell in this area, they're not public knowledge. So the estimates that you get in this area are from different states and different areas. So they don't necessarily correlate to this market.
So let's talk about the non-disclosure real quick, because I think that's important. You hear about the non-disclosure. People are like, I'm in a non-disclosure state. I don't have to disclose that I've got mold in my bathroom. And we're like, no.
No.
That does not mean that you don't disclose what's wrong with your property. What Paul is referring to is the non-disclosure. We don't disclose publicly what sales prices are to the general public, right? Like in Arizona, they do disclose. So you can pull up anybody's property, find out they got a mortgage from Wells Fargo. They owe this amount. They closed from this time. They bought it from this person. New Mexico is a little more restricted. So I didn't mean to cut you off, Paul, but we want to make sure that the listeners understand exactly what non-disclosure is.
Thank you for the clarification. That's what happens when you do your homework.
That's right.
Thank you for that. No, but I think sometimes you get some that are pretty close. Some are very out of whack. And I always say to those people, if you want to sell it for that, why don't we put it at $1 million?
Yeah.
Because you have as much chance of getting the $1 million as you do with that. So if you're going to price your property, definitely talk to a professional, get a realtor, have them do a good market analysis. I think these are good tools for a general range. But other than that, I don't think they're very accurate.
Yeah. In certain instances, they certainly aren't.
Right.
And just for our listeners as well, an AVM is an automated valuation model. And so these are the online tools that you get, and they use kind of all kinds of algorithms to kick it off and say, here, your home based on these algorithms is worth X, Y, or Z. But Melissa, what are your thoughts there?
Well, like Paul said, sometimes they can get it pretty close, but really your best tool is to get with a realtor, because we can get the evaluation based on a 4-bed, 2-bath home, approximately the same square footage, approximately the same size. That's going age as well, approximately the same age. That's going to give you a better determination of what that property could be worth, rather than you have this house that was built in 1974. It's a 3-bed, 2-bath. But it's not going to be worth the same as the one that was built in 2021.
Yeah.
Or upgrades and updates, stuff like that. New coat of paint maybe is not going to give you that update, but I rather that value,
that push and value.
But the brand new HVAC system might.
Sure, the new windows.
The new windows, the finished basement, perhaps, some stuff like that the automated system isn't going to see.
Yeah. And what you said was pretty interesting in the sense that you could have in Farmington in particular, I'm just going to use Farmington for now, but you could have a 2010 built home right next door to a 1974 home. And so some of these evaluation models, they just group everything in that little area and it's not representative of this house versus next house. And so there can absolutely be disparities there. Aspen, what are your thoughts?
I always look at these things just like metals. You have a bronze, you have a silver, and you have a gold. I look at ABMs as basically your bronze, whether using RPRs, estimates, someone's random one from their site. If you live in a cookie cutter neighborhood that the whole subdivision was built at the exact same time, they're the exact same houses, then it's probably going to be very close because they're just based off square footage and the general area, most of them. So I would say in very few circumstances, it's probably going to be pretty accurate, but very rarely. And then I would say your next one, your silver, is going to be reaching out to a realtor who's going to get you a CMA or a market analysis. And we're going to run it off the things Melissa was just talking about. And then I would say if you want kind of like the gold, like the next level, maybe it's a really, really unique property, then you might reach out to an appraiser, pay for the service and, paying a decent bit more and getting a really thorough examination of what your house might be worth. Now, granted, these are all going to change. They could change day to day. They could change especially month to month, year to year. They're going to be different. So I think it just depends what you're wanting it for. If you just want like a very vague number, look at the online tools. It's really no harm just to reach out to a realtor and say, hey, could you just run this for me? Because I guarantee almost everybody's going to just go ahead and run it for you. It doesn't take too much time.
Yeah. And you make an interesting point too about the bronze, silver, gold. Gold standard is what you're saying as far as an appraisal is concerned.
You're getting a big old packet of information about the property.
Yeah. And silver would be a CMA, a comparable market analysis done by the realtors. But what are your thoughts on, you get two different appraisers that go out, you'll get two different numbers.
Yeah,
so it's very subjective.
Numbers. You're going to get different numbers on the online tools. You're going to get different numbers on no matter who you ask. You can ask the neighbor, you can ask yourself. Everyone's going to give you different numbers. It just kind of depends. And really, the only thing that's going to determine what your house is worth is the market. When you list your house and what it sells for, at that time, whatever someone's willing to pay for it, that's what it's worth. So we can all give really good guesses about what your house may sell for. Yeah. But ultimately, someone could come in and it's the perfect house for them and they're going to pay whatever you want. Or we could love it and it could sit for a long time.
Sure.
Yeah. It really is, the market's going to determine what it's worth anyways.
Ultimately, the market decides. Yeah. Yep. So Shannon, what do you do when you get a customer that calls and says, hey, I saw my estimate was X amount and I really want to put this thing on the market. What's your conversation like with them?
So the first thing I would explain to them is that let's just start with a market analysis. That may be accurate, but chances are what I'm going to do is a little more in depth. A lot of things that they pull off of when they do those valuations also are just tax records,
Yeah.
and those aren't going to be, updated every year. That's not going to be accurate. We've had times where our market has fallen pretty fast and times where our market has grown really fast. And you're not going to be able to extrapolate that kind of information off of those types of old information. Even if you look at our market today, think about if you look at somebody says, well, just 12, 14 months ago down the street, my neighbor whose house is just like mine sold for whatever. Well, we're already in a different market. That's already going to be different. Yep. And those evaluations cannot actually step foot in your property. They cannot account for deferred maintenance. They cannot, like you said, windows, new roof. They can't account for those things. If you have a home that's basically right next to each other and they're looking at it and saying they were built the same year, they're the same size, they're the same square footage, and they're taking them and saying, so your house is worth this and your house is worth this. But how many times have we seen one house that is maybe a 1970s house? It maybe has the original kitchen. It's been painted. It's a little bit nicer than the other ones, but it still has the original windows. Well, the one next door, maybe they did a total renovation and they had stripped down to the studs and it doesn't have galvanized plumbing anymore. Sure. It doesn't have old electrical anymore. It doesn't have, that house is going to sell for a different price. And there is no automated valuation that can ever look at your house and make those adjustments.
And smells.
Yeah.
Like if there was animals, smoker.
That's right. Yeah. Those things are going to be a detriment to a buyer. They're going to affect what somebody wants to pay for your house, good and bad. And an automated system is AI is amazing these days, and it does great things, but it just cannot replace a human eye and that human connection, understanding what a buyer wants.
Very well said. Very well said. Well, and I think, and Aspen made this point, if you have 1,000 homes, you're in the Phoenix area, right? And you have 1,000 homes. I mean, those AVMs are on point. And our RPR is a program that we use as realtors, and we can look at properties all across the country. I don't know, is RPR open to the public?
I don't believe so.
Yeah, I think it's just a specific realtor program. And I mean, they have all kinds of layers. They can show where, within a mile radius, what the demographics are, blue, red charts, whether there's growth in specific neighborhoods or, an appreciation of values. I mean, they get granular on that. But the problem is for us here locally in the Four Corners region is that we don't have sprawling neighborhoods of 2,000 homes that were all built by a single builder, where those AVMs can really kick in and give you and that's really accurate. So I don't want to take away from the programs, the algorithms that they created, the AI that's come into play. But when you are dealing with, for lack of a better word, a hodgepodge of different neighborhoods and homes that aren't very consistent. And I don't say that in a bad way. It's just, you have a custom home here and a custom home here. You have an older home here. It may be very nice. And you got a newer home here. It may not have the upgrades of the older home. I mean, your models can't take that into consideration. So when you have a conversation, Paul, with a buyer about what the market is doing, because like Shannon just pointed out, we have this ebb and flow constantly in the market. What does your conversation surround in regard to, your value online versus what we can get right now in this bandwidth? Because you have this little wave that kind of kicks and you're trying to peak the wave for your seller, right? You're trying to grab the top of that wave. What's that conversation look like, Paul?
Well, I would like to say next podcast, I don't want to go first because they answered. You're just like, what do you think?
Your homework, Paul.
It might be my fault. So I'll do better next time. I like to talk to sellers about micro markets. And Farmington, like you say, there's a hodgepodge of new and old, custom and cookie cutter. And we have markets that change from one street to the next.
Yeah.
Like you can't get the same value out of 1,200 square feet, one street over. So I like to tell them, we need to look right in this area. What's happened in this area was built in the same time frame, the same type of construction, the same sort of amenities. We can't look across town to what something, the same house is selling in a different area.
Right.
So I talk quite a bit about location as being one of the prime valuation, prime drivers for your pricing. And then there's the sellability factor. And I've forgotten what the question was. I had a thought thinking about what they were talking about.
No, that was great. That's great. But I like the micro markets, right? Now I'm going to play devil's advocate a little bit because
you always do.
Yeah, I always do. That's good. I do think in some price categories, people will go, hey, I'm not going to look in this specific area. I'm going to look across the board at every property, whether it's Farmington, Bloomfield, Aztec, Waterflow, Durango, whatever it is. If I'm in a specific range, I want to consider all options there, right? So that is almost another micro market within a.
Well, you're talking buyers.
Yes. Yeah.
We were talking sellers.
So that's a good delineation, because for me, when I think about, and when I have a conversation with a seller, now you all throw in your thoughts. When I have a conversation with a seller, it's very much in the eyes of a buyer. Right? Coming from a buyer's perspective. So if they're going to look at your home, Mr. Seller, and it's 1,500 square feet and you're at 250,000 and you have these great amenities, what would keep them from looking at that over here in this area or this location, right? What makes your home superior to that home in that choice? What are your thoughts on that, Melissa, and navigating the different areas or micro markets within the area?
I don't know what I think about it.
Yeah.
Because it's something that it can be a challenge to educate a seller on that. Because you know what? We all take pride in our homes, right? Yeah. We all do. And sometimes there's that personal pride that comes into play that no matter what you tell the seller, no, this is worth what Zillow said.
Yeah.
Which is wildly inaccurate. So It can be a challenge, but it just goes to, preparing and educating your seller as much as you possibly can to help them understand. And ultimately the market will tell us, are we having showings? Are we having offers? If not, it's always price.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah, you can change a lot of things, but you can't change the location of the home, right? You can't change some of these fundamentals. Yeah. So it really boils down to the price. Paul,
just to add, I remember when you were training me way back when I first started, I was adamant, this house is better than that house, and we should be able to get this price. It wasn't selling; we weren't getting showing. You said something to me. He said, if it was priced at $100,000 today, would it sell? I go, in a heartbeat. But then it's always price. And that's kind of what I talk to sellers about. Once you get to the point where it's not showing anymore, it's, we're getting reviews that say we have this issue. Is it fix the issue or bring the price down? Yeah. So those are, that's kind of another topic, but it's always price, like she was saying.
It is always price. Now, when you do a market analysis, do you throw in active comps? Because so you have the online valuation tools, right? You have the bronze, then you have the silver, which is our market analysis. And in that market analysis, do you include obviously sold homes, right? Do you include the pending and the actives?
Well, you trained me to do it this way. And I know we're going to have a different discussion here, or there's a different opinion. Aspen has a different opinion.
I have a different opinion than people?
Yeah.
Right? So I think closed is the one that, the appraisers are going to look at. Sure. So you have to have that in there. I think having like what's going on in the market right now, that's your pending. And then the active is your competition. Yeah. So if you are pricing at a spot that is way above the competition or way below, you can adjust. You don't want to leave money on the table, and you don't want to be the one that's last standing and you have to wait for forever to get it sold. So I tend to look at the actives just to see where the market currently, the pendings for where the market currently is. Yeah. And you want to, differentiate yourself from the competition. So that's why I look at actives as well.
Yeah. And this market in the last 12 months, it's shifted a bit. But before that, when it was just a feeding frenzy in the market, like the actives didn't even really play a part of it, because no matter what you put it on, it was, the market was just driving the prices 100%. So Aspen, what are your thoughts on?
I don't disagree with that at all.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, shoot, I was hoping for some juicy back and forth there.
I might not put it, in my, so like we said, we're not a disclosure state. So I will call for any pendings. If they're allowed to tell me what it's under contract for, then they can tell me. If they can't, they can't. So I do call for pendings. And if I get the actual number that it's under contract for, I might include it. If I'm needing, more actives, I might not put them necessarily in the CMA, but I'm definitely bringing them, say, hey, this is listed at this price. It's been here for this many days. Here's the pictures. And then ask them, they know, is your house comparable to this? Is it a little bit better? Is it maybe need some repair? Just being able to look at that. So I might not include it necessarily in my CMA, but I'm definitely pulling up the actives because we don't want to drastically under or overprice.
Yeah, absolutely. Shannon, what are your thoughts about including actives in your valuation?
So I always have active listings in my CMA, but I don't use them. I just attach them. So I'm with you. I don't come in with that as the price. I use only the sales as comps for the price, but I always include, because I think you need to see what your competition is. And I want to be, and a lot of times I'll even give somebody maybe a market analysis and say, well, according to the sales, maybe you ought to be, for round numbers, 200,000. But with what currently is on the market right now, you look a little better than these. These ones over here maybe have a little bit more than you. Maybe our market analysis says this, but with the current picture, if you're in a neighborhood like, say, Becklin Hills, and you're in the specific area where, they're all the older homes and they're all about the same size and they're all about the same amenities and they were all built by the same builder. And you can see that my market analysis maybe comes in at, one number, but there are currently 4 of them that are exactly like yours on the market. And maybe they're all a little bit more or a little bit less. that might be your better indicator of where you need to be listing at, because I've had people and say, I can't really justify this price, but I think I can get you this. And I've done that on numerous occasions where I say, maybe your market analysis comes in at 2, but I say, let's go with 230. We can always come down if we need to.
Sure.
I'm not a big fan of overpricing, but if you look and you say, but there are 3 or 4 other properties in this neighborhood that are all sitting right here. You are just as good, if not better than those. Let's try for a little bit more. Or other times where I say, I have some here, but this was kind of a unique sale. And this was, at the, a little bit farther out. And I don't really have anything in the last 3 months that's sold over here. So I think they're good to use. I don't include them in my actual price that I'm giving, but I will include them in the consideration, because really what my market analysis comes in at isn't always the price I recommend to list, which sounds crazy.
Yeah.
Because I have 2 different things I go by.
So explain that more than what we were just talking about. Explain more about what you were just saying.
So sometimes I do a market analysis basically based on what the sales are. I think that's where you should do a market analysis at. But I always include what the current competition, what's currently on the market. If you can look and you can see that there are, 12 homes in your neighborhood within 3 miles that are nothing different than yours, much to speak of, and they're all listed at a certain price, why are you let's be ambitious and start 30,000 over. Why would you do that? They're going to look at every one of those homes when they look at yours. Be the best on the market. And vice versa, it goes the other way. Sometimes, you want to be lower. Sometimes you can be a little more ambitious. So I always do the market analysis based on that and say, these are the numbers that I can support. But looking at the current picture of the market, if we've got some other things, maybe there is nothing else in your neighborhood. There is nothing. There's not one other home within your subdivision. If somebody's looking, they want yours.
Yeah. And what you were just saying, though, is that you rarely list at the price that your market analysis comes in at, correct?
I wouldn't say rarely, not always. Yeah. I mean, I have that price that I say this is what the market says right now, but then there are other factors. And I think people don't always account for that. You can't account for that in an automated valuation. You can't account for what your current competition is or what's going on or what they're building right down the street.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah, I think it depends on when you're listing it too, because I know for me, it really just depends. It depends what they want. Do you want to sell it really quickly? Do you want to have a bidding war? Do you want to let it sit and just see? It really depends and it also comes down to your realtor. I know what I can market it for. I know what I can negotiate for you. So I think it comes down to a little bit of trust and just kind of saying, here's your options. And seeing what they would like to do too. So sometimes it makes sense to list under it. Sometimes it makes sense to list over it. And especially with the amount of houses we see, we can kind of gauge that maybe the range that the market analysis comes back in isn't.
Something too, I think that our market analysis have an edge over the automated ones is we can see how many days on market it took for these houses that are very similar to close. Now, granted, we can't do that right now. We can't go back a year because a year ago, the market was different. But we can look at that in the past 3 months, 4 months. How many days on market was our average? And then that can help determine the price as well, I think.
Yeah.
So if you've got a lot of homes that are sitting, 45 days plus on market, okay, you can have that advantage by coming in a little bit lower, might get more than one offer, yada, yada. So I think that's really cool about our ones that we can put together.
Yeah. And that just absolutely makes the distinction between an AVM, an online valuation, and what we can do as realtors as a market analysis and how granular we can get. And really, because you have that ebb and flow in the market, right? So that a home is only, let's just use a $200,000 home, for example. That home is only going to bring between 195 and 205. How do you get the 205? Right. That's where that $10,000 swing is where you hit that ebb and flow in the market. And that's where the pricing strategy comes into play. Those conversations, those one-on-one conversations, of course, the aggressive marketing that we all do as realtors. Right. And how do you really capture that bandwidth? Paul, do you have any further comments on the?
Well, I think one thing that I don't know if we've completely touched on yet is when we're having the conversation with the seller and they want that higher price, they want to shoot for the moon. We have to, as the realtors, have to say, well, it's going to appraise in this range. That's why we use the closed comps for the market analysis. Say the appraisal is going to come in right about here. We use the competition with the actives and the pending, but the appraiser is going to use the closed. So we have to be the ones to tell the seller, this is where it should come in at. If we go too much higher, buyer makes an offer, appraisal could bring it back down.
Yep. Excellent point. And I think that's going to be a whole podcast topic on its own pricing strategies, right? Mm-hmm. Different scenarios, different strategies. Now we're running a little short on time, so I want to dive right into the speed round, and then we're going to get to my favorite part of the podcast. But the speed round, final thoughts, are value AVMs, right? Automated valuation models online worth their salt? Shannon, you can go first.
They're not really worth much. I'd say if you're just kind of trying to get your thumb on the pulse, that's fine. But if you really are looking to sell, if you really do want to know a price on your, get an actual human, warm body to come out and give you some good, sound, professional advice.
Excellent. Aspen?
In the Four Corners, no, I don't think they're worth much here.
Yeah, understood. Melissa?
Same. Not in our area.
Yep. Paul?
Estimates are always right.
The controversial one, just wanting to throw in some, couldn't wait to do that. And I agree with the rest of the partners here. Online valuation models here locally. Yeah, I mean, you're gonna get somewhat of a ballpark, but really you need someone to do a formal market analysis or an appraisal. So thank you for that great discussion. On to the next part of the episode, which I love. It's called The Lyons Pride. As you all know, we are the Lyons Group, and we dedicate our lives to a large degree to improving our community and those around us. And so we also want to recognize other people that improve the community that we live in as well. And Shannon, you're up today with the Lyons Pride.
All right. So it's not, today I've chosen someone that's not a someone, but actually an organization.
Oh, very cool.
In our area, we have an organization that probably does not get as much credit as they deserve. The Path, it is.
Yes.
People assisting the homeless. Now, I want to just give you really quick. Their mission statement is to temporarily provide basic needs, information, guidance, support, services, empowering those they assist to regain a productive, self-supporting lifestyle. So they are not your typical shelter. They do not just give you a warm bed to sleep in at night. You do have to be sober. You do have to work to regain employment. They will help with childcare. They have programs. They run the Daily Bread, which they feed Monday through Friday, people that need meals. They offer life skills, coping skills. They teach you about housing, budgeting, health and lifestyle, better lifestyle choices. So people that come there, when you start realizing that the statistics say that 7 out of 10 Americans, and really think about this, are one paycheck away from losing their home.
Oh, yeah,
that is terrifying to think of. And we realize how many people are just hanging on by a thread, and how many families really just hit that point where they can't do that next step. And the Path is not just a shelter that will give you some food and a place to sleep for the night. They really are dedicated to putting our community back on a better path to being self-sufficient. And that's what makes them different. And that's what makes them special. There are a lot of ways you can help the Path. If you want to volunteer at the Daily Bread, if you want to maybe just even attend the Mayor's Ball this year, benefits them. And that starts, next year. I think in January, they start selling tickets. The chocolate affair that they do every year. Those type of things, keep giving them funds that they can keep doing that good work. And when you realize that they serve, I think, 800 people in our community every year. And I think they offer like 20,000 nights stay, like beds to so many people. You think about how many people are spending a night there, how many people are getting a warm bed and getting nurturing. Yeah. They're not just, they don't just open their doors so you have a warm place and you don't die on the streets at night. It's nurturing. Yeah. And it's a completely different concept. And I think they do great work. And I think they deserve to be talked about. I think that people they don't get the recognition that they should.
Well, I love the fact that they go back to the fundamentals of teaching some of the basic things and creating a path forward. It's not just a destination you're going to be. They're creating a path forward. So if you're a part of the Path nonprofit organization, we want to tell you that the Lyons Group, we see you. We want to thank you for all the work that you're doing in our community. And we couldn't be more proud of what you're doing to help people get to the next level in their lives. So thank thank you very much and welcome to the Lyons Pride. So on that note, we are going to conclude our session today. Next week, we're going to talk about water rights. So you want to stay tuned. If you have water rights or thinking about water rights, or if you want to acquire water rights, you want to listen to that episode. But if you like what we're talking about and you want to throw in a topic, please comment on one of the videos. You can reach out to us at team@sjcbroker.com. You can go to our search engine, which is sjcbroker.com, and find out more about all of us and reach out to any of us. We have all of our contact information listed below. You can reach out and get a free buyer's or seller's guide. They are fantastic. They're the best around. And we're happy to help. We're an open book. We love working with this community and the clients that we have. And thank you for joining us today. Until the next time, we'll see you in the den.
Thank you for listening to The Den, powered by the Lyons Group. Hit the subscribe button to keep informed on real estate happenings. If you'd like to learn more about the Lyons Group, visit sjcbroker.com. Complex markets require complex strategies. The Lyons Group can give you a true advantage in any market. Whether you're buying or selling, residential or commercial, contact us directly at sjcbroker.com. We're time-tested experts with a client-first approach, and we'll see you next time in the Den.